So Nancy, you started to talk about coming to Duchesne, and so that's going to lead me right into, let's just get right into what it was to be a student at Duchesne from 45 to 49. So if one of you want to start off to just talk about just what was your daily life at Duchesne like, or a day in the life at Duchesne as a student?
Why don't you? Yeah.
Me? Okay. Well, we entered Duchesne by a little door on 36th Street, and I think the door is still there. And we didn't have lockers. We had hooks. We weren't carrying backpacks. We had our books in our arm, and we were in silence once we came in that door. Hung up our coat, went up to the second floor where we had a study hall, and each one of us had a desk. And
it's over here.
Okay, there is one of our academy desks and chairs, and the entire study hall was full of desks. It was silence. There was a platform at the front of the study hall, and one of the RSCJs would sit there and monitor us. And then you had the huge, imposing statue of Mater looking down on us, too. And we were allowed to open our desk at that point and put in our books and take out what we would need, and sit there until class started. And then, here, one of the nuns would, whoever was monitoring, you remember that sound? And we would be allowed to stand up and gather our books and get in line. And I think they clicked it again when we could move. We went 2 by 2 in silence to our classrooms. And when we got to the classroom, we had assigned seats, and they were usually alphabetical. And I sat between Betty Ann Code and Jean Daly, because I was also, and they both were laughers, if you can remember. Laughing. So that's just a very strong memory of trying not to laugh, and we were always in the front row. So I wasn't quite as studious as Nancy makes out, but anyway, I got through. But we had, do you want me to talk about the curriculum?
Yeah, well, before that, what about the uniforms? We had talked about that a little bit, and the reason I asked that is because I'm not sure if everyone saw Barb Fitzgerald. This was one of the spring.
Summer uniforms, the spring uniform.
Barb, would you like to stand up? We could. You might be able to just talk about Barb's uniform.
We actually had 3 different uniforms. Our main uniform was navy blue wool, and it was kind of heavy and scratchy, and it was an Eton jacket and then a pleated skirt. And we had a white blouse with Peter Pan collars and cuffs. And of course, in those days, you ironed everything. So that was the main uniform. We also had the same style uniform, but it was white for special days, for feasts and visitors, etc. Excuse me, etc. But then when it got warm, we were allowed to have a summer uniform, and they were the golfers. And they were in different pastel shades, pink and orchid and yellow, light green maybe. Inside our desks, we each had a manila envelope, and inside the envelope was our veil that we clipped to our hair with a bobby pin for chapel, and our white gloves. And you had to keep those clean, and they weren't always clean. So that's pretty much what our day was. Everything was in silence.
What happened if somebody was not in silence? The gigglers, the ones that, what sort of discipline?
Well, you would get points off at preem, and I think most people remember preem. I don't know when they stopped preem.
But they didn't kind of catch you at that time, or no detentions, no?
I think they just had a look at you. I mean, they... You minded in those days. You really did. You didn't have... And I don't ever remember seeing a mother up here because their kid got in trouble. Never occurred to a parent to run up and, why did no. No, you got it when you got home. If you happened to, I'm sorry to see my brothers here, but I think I was very good girl in school. Yes, I did not cause a lot of trouble like some people, yeah. It just kills me that they came. Isn't that nice? Honestly.
Very nice.
So
Very.
early, yeah, oh,
that's
jeepers.
Yes, you can go into the curriculum now.
Oh,
wanna
the
talk a little bit.
curriculum was developed really by Louis Barra, Father Louis Barra, Madeleine Sophie's brother, a Jesuit, and because girls were not educated frequently or well in those years, in those centuries, it was all patterned after the Jesuit education, a classical, what they called a classical education. And so we, on the first academic, which is freshman, we were the first academic, second academic, and on to the fourth, we had ancient history and literature, plus 4 years of Latin, 4 years of French, 4 years of math. And our first period was a double period, and they had a name for it, which escapes me. I don't remember the name for that first period, but it was like core subjects, literature and history. Torture? That's right. And it was the first academic we had ancient history and literature. Second academic was medieval. Third was Renaissance, and the fourth was modern. And we also, during that period, had rhetoric, and the next year logic, and
Philosophy.
Philosophy was the last one. There was a third one in there. And I think grammar was, yes,
Yeah.
that was the first one.
One thing we've had that has been fun to hear, our grandchildren, people who say they're grandchildren, when they would sit and watch like some of these programs like Jeopardy, or how do you know all those answers? And a lot of it is just because of the humanities part of the education, and it seems to stay with you most of the time. I mean, leaving now, but anyway, it's been wonderful to have through all these years to know that you have a little background in history, so that when you're not just.
I think the other thing that we all remember is that there was no choice. You took the curriculum. You didn't sign up for different classes. The curriculum was laid out, and you took it.
And they took anybody. I mean, so I loved it when Meg said something about, well, what about the admissions? Well, you just showed up. I mean, there was not any, I don't think they had any criteria at all. They just, you just.
I think that was for our generation, my generation too, so it's a little different now. Well, I have a report card here, and I saw that in addition to Christian doctrine, psychology, history, all those things that you talked about, there's a whole list of things like recitation, diction, personal appearance, and my favorite, the response to training, observance of school rule, courtesy, cooperation, order, recitation, spelling. So those obviously were a very big part of your education as well.
They were.
Mm-hmm. I see some very good marks here too, so.
We can thank Joanne Franken-Klosner for that.
She saved it.
Yeah, that's Joanne's report card.
Just for you to know, the program we have today, on the back, we put a glossary of definitions for some of the things, just reminders for some or for others, because things were called different things back then. They had different names, and if you want to just go through some of those, Marilyn, that would be
Well,
great.
thank you, Reverend Mother. Head of school was Reverend Mother, and the principal was the mistress general, and the dean of students was the surveillant. A business office, we had a bursar. Mother Harder was the bursar.
Mother Dorsey was the,
Mother Dorsey was the mistress general.
yeah.
Mother McGilligan and Mother Nodum were both surveillants through the years that we were here. We didn't go to the cafeteria, we went to the refectory. And we were served family style at tables by the sisters, not the mothers, but the sisters. The RSCJs was very similar to the Jesuits in that the Jesuits have priests and brothers, and the brothers do the daily work of taking care of the place, the grounds, etc. That's pretty much the same way with the RSCJs. The sisters cooked and cleaned, and they served us our meals family style. We had assigned places at table. A senior was the head of the table, and a junior was second in command, I suppose. And then the freshmen and sophomores filled in. And I think that's where some of us I know I did, lost points at preem for doing things like shaking the Jell-O. They didn't say that, though. They said, manners in the refectory. And if my sister Colleen is here, she got points off. She's over here. Colleen got points off for handling her companions.
Wow.
And I did ask her, what did you do? And she said we were in line leaving the recreation, and she put her hand on Lois Ann's shoulder. And that was handling your companions.
I sneezed, and everybody laughed, so I thought, oh, I'll do it again. I sneezed again. And I got points off at preem.
Oh my God. That is good. Well, you are talking about preems. Could you just talk about that a little bit more? What were preems?
Did we what?
Talk about preems.
Madeleine.
They had it every Monday morning, and Reverend Mother would sit at front of those two doors down there, and the chairs were turned around to face that door, and we'd all go down by class and then stand in a semicircle, curtsy before her, and then you'd get the reading of the, they'd read your name, and if you had Trey Bien, Assay Bien, yeah, and then Rian, nothing. Never, anyway, I guess there was once, but
We won't.
we won't go into that. Very seldom, you usually got points. They gave you très bien, but points for politeness. And a lot of times, I came here after, with my mother saying that I had a heart murmur, which I did after having rheumatic fever. So the nuns let me ride the elevator, that little thing that they say is the oldest now in Omaha. It's still working.
When it was working, it was the oldest working elevator in Omaha. Now it's done working.
Oh, it's done?
Yes, we
Well,
have
like me, just about, I tell you. But when that was the elevator, and they would run to open the door, and then I'd pop out of it. And of course, they'd be mad because they would be trying to get the politeness medal for the ones who were really good. You got a medal, and you got to wear it then through the week, and you had doctrine, math, French, polite, all little medals, right?
Order. We got a medal for order.
And order. They knew how to program, boy, I'll tell you. But anyway, it was fun, and it was, they had the, infirmary, because the nuns were cloistered. They couldn't leave the building. So they had like where the doctors would, if you didn't go to the hospital unless you were probably dying, you got to go. But I don't think otherwise, that they took care of you here, except they said during the war, they were allowed to go to the doctor's office for appointments, you know, to leave the, but I remember when there was the Kellys lived over here on the corner, and there was a death while we were in high school of somebody in their family. They had a big family anyway. And Mother Kelly was here at Duchesne. She couldn't go across the street to the wake. They waked them at home a lot then. And that always left an impression on me. I thought, gee, you know, wow. But they knew it when they entered, that was the life, that they were not going to be going. So you think of that, of somebody giving up that, right? Wow. You know, you just think, well, no wonder when the thing came in '64 that so many flew away, because, no, I mean it, you know, there's certain things that just are kind of against something.
Yeah.